we have flipped another page on the archives. We're here on WCLU. This is Henry Royse along with Sam Terry to begin the month of March in history. How are you this morning, Sam?
I'm well.
You ready
Excited to start a new month.
It is. You know, March is always a transitional month, and I'm sure we're probably going to see that as we barrel through the archives here with a lot of interesting things. And I want to thank you for your research. I want to thank Gail Berry, Debbie Pace, as well as a whole lot of volunteers. And we continue to encourage you to think seriously about getting involved in digging through the archives. You'll be exposed to a whole lot of memories, and you'll get to help a whole lot of other folks enjoy the history that we have to share that is harbored at the South Central Kentucky Cultural Center. All right, you ready to go back 100 years?
Absolutely.
This was the day, the first day of March, in the Glasgow Daily Times, that it was announced that the Glasgow Graded School District has purchased the interest of the County Board of Education in the school building jointly owned by them in Glasgow, which is known as the former Liberty College. Here's what they paid for the building. $10,000. This $10,000 consideration includes all improvements recently made on the property, embracing laboratory, equipment, etc. The figure is considered reasonable, as the other half of the property, already owned by the school district, was purchased for $10,000 before any improvements had been made. The graded school trustees from now on have undisputed control of the school and the hiring of the teachers.
That's a very historic thing.
Yes, what a big move that was there in 1924.
Well, prior to that, in 1914, a decade earlier, Nettie Depp was the county school superintendent, and she worked with Mr. E.B. Terry of the city schools, and they went together to start the first four-year high school available to students all over Barren County, and they purchased the old Liberty College property. And so for the first 10 years, both city and county high school students went there. There weren't a lot because the norm at that time was to get an 8th grade degree.
Okay.
And so it made a high school available to county students in particular. And as time wore on, the communities making up the Barren County schools, such as Austin Tracy, Park City, Hiceville, Temple Hill, decided they wanted to build their own schools in their communities for the students out in the county. And so this was the breakup of the high schools from one high school in Barren County to 5.
What a piece of history, though, that is, and how it started and who was involved in, the people that were separately, individually responsible for the education we had went together to form more and agreed on the combination of it. I just like that history. It was in 1934 the Glasgow Times reported a sad story about funeral services, Sam, being held in Tompkinsville on Monday for Willis Fred Shirley, 36-year-old Tompkinsville World War veteran and formerly the personal bodyguard of President Woodrow Wilson, who died at his home Saturday night. Mr. Shirley served with the 84th Division in France as boxing and wrestling instructor until the close of the war, when he was appointed one of the bodyguards and returned to the United States on the 88 George Washington with President Roosevelt, on the SS George Washington with President Roosevelt. Burial was in the Old Soldier Cemetery at Tompkinsville. Sounds like a historic place, Sam, the Old Soldier Cemetery.
It is, and that's obviously still there in Tompkinsville, and an interesting historic burial place to visit if you're visiting over there sometime. But it kind of interesting that someone from our area was President Roosevelt's personal bodyguard.
Well, I thought it was Wilson, President Wilson.
Wilson, yes, I'm sorry.
But he came back with Roosevelt. He was hanging out with all the big wigs.
Exactly.
And what I think is if I was going to commission somebody for a bodyguard, I would really probably lean toward a boxing instructor.
Sounds like a good choice.
1944, the Glasgow Times is reporting, Sam, that work began this week on remodeling the St. Charles Grocery in that part of the telephone office recently damaged by fire. Concrete basement floor is being poured, replacing the old wooden floor, lessening all fire hazards. Now, the archivists note in this archive item that this was on East Washington Street behind the old Citizens National Bank building, which also housed the telephone office. That has a bad sound to it, the telephone office burning down.
Yes, that would cause a lot of problems in your community, for sure.
And a whole lot of difficulty in rebuilding, a lot of troubleshooting, a whole lot of that sort of stuff, but those things do happen.
Yes, and of course, Mr. and Ms. St. Charles eventually moved their grocery and fruit stand out on North Royse at the corner of Cherry Street.
Yes, indeed. A fabulous piece of history there, too. It's 1954. We learn about the Temple Hill Independent girls basketball team continuing their winning series over the weekend, downing the Ashland Oil girls team 40-34 at Horse Cave. The win gave the Temple Hill girls the unofficial status as regional champions. For Temple Hill, the win represented a taste of revenge. The Temple Hill girls had lost to the Ashland Oil Lassies on February the 18th in a low-scoring bout, 16-11. Miniature awards for the outstanding play were presented to Rowena Deering from Ashland Oil and Martha Bell Bertram from Temple Hill. Bertram was the top scorer of the evening with 21 points. Other Temple Hill players included Nancy Bertram, Beulah Anderson, Jean Harlow, Yvonne Harlow, Clara Bush, and Evelyn Kinslow. Playing for Ashland Oil were Emma Jean Froge, Helen Spencer, Nancy Jones, Charlotte Bowles, Betty Bird, Atheline Bays, and Nancy Gross.
Wow.
Well, that's an all-star lineup for sure.
It certainly is. I don't know exactly where the Ashland Oil women's basketball team was located, but it's obviously nearby. We have local people involved in that.
We did. 1964, the Glasgow Republican has some big news about a new vet in town. Dr. B.A. Guilfoyle, a veterinarian from Lexington, Kentucky, arrived here Monday to assume his duties, the duties of Dr. Edwin Page at the Glasgow Animal Clinic. Dr. Guilfoyle practiced in Lexington prior to serving in the Army. He's a graduate of Auburn University College of Veterinary Medicine in Alabama. Dr. and Mrs. Guilfoyle and 2 children are residing in Cardinal Court. So,
that's big news.
Yes, it is. Many folks know of the history and the quality of service that Dr. Guilfoyle brought to the community, and of course, Dr. Guilfoyle you perhaps are aware of his daughters, one of which is Ms. Kelly Craft, who was once upon a time a candidate for governor and who was an ambassador to United Nations, and of course Micah Payne, who is also an attorney, and they have one son, and I'm going to go crazy trying to think of his first name. I think
Mark.
It was Mark. Yeah, Mark. Okay, so there we go. That's more history than we thought we knew.
Yes.
But anyway, when in 1964, when Dr. Guilfoyle and family came to Glasgow.
Well, and I would also add to that, we all think of Dr. Guilfoyle as the veterinarian, but Dr. Guilfoyle also served for decades on the Barren County Board of Health in helping our community stay healthy and our residents to be healthy, and that was a great service. And there's a nice memorial tree in his honor on the front lawn of the current health department.
He and his wife were always so fun to talk to, very personable, and just good folks to have and good folks to know.
In 1984, we have a couple of things, actually. One, Glasgow hardware dealer Bobby Richardson made the most of his birthday by showing up at his noontime meal dressed in a tuxedo. Folks who eat at George J's about the same time each day saw that he had a birthday cake. Mary Jean Caldwell, Joe McKinney, Mary Wilkinson, and Clyde Young were apparently part of his birthday celebration there. And also on this day, the Bonaire Charge of the United Methodist Women met at the home of Mrs. Garneta Squires. 8 members were in attendance: Grace Smith, Wilma Allen, Jane Barrick, Anna M. Gray, Evelyn L. Lyons, Melva Richardson, and Cleo Sledge.
Wow.
So,
some big names right there.
Yes.
You were talking about Mr. Bobby Richardson. I always thought it was neat when I was a kid. Of course, Mr. Richardson owned the hardware store right there where off the square is, and of course his full name was Charles R. Richardson.
Mm-hmm.
But then right next door was a lawyer office of Bobby Richardson, which was, in other words, two Bobby Richardsons side by side, one a lawyer, one a hardware store owner, both of whom were fine gentlemen. And I remember Mr. Richardson very well. And of course, his wife Melba is very involved in community activities and just wonderful folks indeed. I wanted to throw that in there while I was thinking about it.
And I'm sure that situation created some fun laughs over the years.
Yeah, I'm sure there's probably some really good, some good stories where somebody went to the hardware store to get a divorce or something and got the wrong Bobby Richardson or something. Who knows? Fun stuff. 2004, Sam Terry, we learned about the Kentucky National Guard's 1st Battalion of the 623rd Field Artillery having a new commander. It is Major Emmanuel Belt. I'm sorry, it's Emmanuel Belt. Did I say that right? Mm-hmm. Mr. Emmanuel Belt, Major Emmanuel Belt, the new National Guard Armory commander in 2004. It's published in the Barren County Progress. And it was 2014 in the Barren County Progress. We learn a little bit more history right here. One more of these stories we don't like to hear, but it was four words. Winter storm hits the area.
As I recall, it certainly did. We had quite a bit of snow at that time.
Yes, we did indeed. So, we got the March kicked off with style.
I agree.
We're going to have a good month, I think. I appreciate all of your hard work right here. We had to scrape and scrap a little bit as we got March started off, but we're going to get deeply involved in history. We thank you for joining us for the archives today here on WCLU. Have a good day, Sam.
You too.